Read from.
Hi, everyone.
This book tonight.
It is my great pleasure to introduce these three excellent poets tonight at the Grolier Bookshop. With my thanks to James Fraser for asking me to assume the honor, and to the Mankaty family for keeping this legendary institution going strong nearly into its 100th year. Mary Buchinger, our first reader, has published 5 full-length poetry collections, has won many awards for her work, is a former president of the New England Poetry Club, but rather go on enumerating honors that you can read about, I'd rather quote one of her poems. These lines are from That We Be Combustible. I stand in this crowded subway car, shoulder to shoulder. We are fat and muscle, gristle and skin, incandescent. These are gorgeous lines in themselves, but that the poet situates them between lines bearing witness to the kind of violence we find every day on the news and the observance of a picture book of Matisse cutouts opened in the hand of a fellow passenger speaks to the hope of keeping one's humanity alive in the face of a world governed more and more by mechanism and dehumanization. Art is a way of transgressing, if not transcending, the boundaries of such governance. In this, Buchinger's poem exists in artful conversation with Stephen Schneider's. Professor at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, Schneider is a poet of border crossings, whose many books of poems and criticism I could also enumerate. Instead, here are the beginning and ending lines of Stephen Schneider's Tropicalized. You grow weary of the pastoral elegies to emptiness, the way a crab burrows beneath the sand to dig an air hole. You want to take flight on the wings of a sandpiper. You want to probe the depths of the seas like a dolphin. What Schneider leads us along between these gorgeously contrary couplets is a passage of encounter that interfuses art and nature, poets, and the poetry of the sea that affirms anything but what some might regard as a long-forgotten dream. It affirms realities that so often elude our regard. William Wenthe, Horn Distinguished Professor at Texas University and award-winning author of 5 books of poems, writes in resonant conversation with these 2 other poets of place, history, and nature. In Place Names of the South Plains, Wenthe recognizes that indeed it is hard to imagine a place without imagining yourself in it, whereas if in no time his own car appears imaginatively from the founder's vantage, quote, like a bubble in some vast spirit level. The final, yes, gorgeous lines of this poem consider nothing less than the poet's place in the midst of this place, remote as it is, defined by history, but also by something more, which at once focuses and eludes the poet's range of understanding. And me, squinting across a dun expanse that seems to serve no human aim, but to anchor a round horizon. And if they ask me its name, would I tell them reverie or lost? Please join me in welcoming these 3 terrific poets, Mary Buchinger, Stephen Schneider, and William Wenthe.
Nice job, Glenn. Thank you.
That was amazing. You brought us all together in this space. Thank you. Thank you all who are here. Really very happy to see you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for those who are online. I am also thankful to James for keeping this sacred space for us and welcoming us in this way. So thank you. I'm going to be reading the title poem from this book. There is only the sacred and the desecrated. Francis of Assisi said that. And, you know, it could be considered a narrowing, but I was thinking of if we just have secular and sacred, sacred and secular, then the secular doesn't get a chance to be sacred as well. So if we think about all like the default, the unmarked form as sacred, it's a very different beginning place. It's what Francis of Assisi did. And creatures in the natural world took him to the sacred, and that's true for me too. So you'll find a lot of that in this particular, well, actually in the book. But so I'll just read. It's a long sequence, so you can settle in. So all I'll read tonight is, there is only the sacred and the desecrated. My cat's expression of holy. Me, she says, bumping my chin, chewing on my pencil. The rain, too, is multiplied, is air multiplied. The hardware store, our destination, I step off the curb with my dog, Dover. The street is empty, the way streets in dreams are empty. What I see is what I'm looking for. The door will enter, waits on the other side of the strangely lacquered pavement. Trick of the light, that orangey, yellow, greenish glow before a storm. Then I spot a line of metal barricades, the reason no cars, and a wolf comes loping toward us, its gray and white coat glossy in the mystical light. It wants Dover. Help, I say, as if to myself. Help. A man looks up. His blonde dog pees on the grass, and I can see he has no idea. All I can do is wake. Francis, what gave you this idea? Was it the birds, their wings of light and perfect oval eggs? The flesh on the foot of a newborn child? The first holy leaves of anything green? Earth's cathedral of pumice and lapis? Rent-free sanctity. You begin, Francis. Then you begin again. A lease on new. The Ukrainian artist was 70 years old the first time she held a brush. Her son banished to a penal colony, her husband and daughter buried. I will paint my future, she said. I will give it bird and flower, blues and yellows, my green future in a sacred embrace of these walls. O concrete surface, take hold of my dream, bring it into vine, give it window and desk. Let what is me be garden. Live here, O feathered song. Paint it, feed it, and I shall open in time. Two sisters. When one spoke, pearls fell from her mouth, and the other, frogs and toads. And me, sister three, each sister in me. In my ears, pearls and toads. Amphibious wisdom I take to the road. Bonaventure gave us Francis clean, Francis beloved, who does not need an apologist and confessor, a translator of peripatetic intent. someone who sees us as their vested interest, their very lively lovelihood. Be my Bonaventure. Say I start right now. Paint my house, my inner vessel, with a new teaching, a new Francis. Whatever contuition is required to see the rivulets of holiness in cloudberry and leaf, in blue spider veins and ripening tomato, to tread the holy path of talking stones beneath a sister moon, God's very son, a sheep. But, Francis, must I empty my freezer, decouple my household from meat? How personal need an ethic be? The exact change only. Dear Francis, did you wonder how the human skin detects temperature? Your answer is an answer to everything. You shed your father's silks for sackcloth that rasped against your skin, gathering in its roughened flax the feathers and fur of your new wild friends. Denying self, you cured all you touched. Even the water that washed your feet came away wholly, releasing the fevers of cows and lambs. I, branched dowsing rod, seek you, holiness, to be my find. O hidden stream of goodness, call to my diviner. Draw on me, on that in me which rhymes with you. May I sense what I cannot see, persistent and sure as my cat. May we meet as in a state of before, you coursing underground and me believing. The refusal of comfort is comfort. The callous of love does not admit bitterness. When I teach about the language of intimacy and power, I teach the words that insulate the stark request. Would you mind? Would it be okay with you if? And I consider the chickadee dee, each D a measure of urgency, a thermometer of sound. Once in the White Mountains on the Greeley Pond Trail, I stopped by a pine tree near the parking lot, and the chorus of chickadee dee dee grew bright and bold. One bird nearest me, its throat pulsing with song, called everyone to come. The air flocked alive with chickadees, primed for a handout. And I didn't know this learning they had. And to never go to the pond without a handful of seeds. These birds of Francis sought Francis in me. Francis, you're a mattress against the bullet. Wake up. The rich are using you. What doesn't begin as an irritation, an unendurable itch, an expulsion and accommodation, the annoying, undeniable new, with no vision of what's to come. The bang beget elephants and sycamores and Shakespeare. Who knows what from where? I inhale pearly nights and mornings and hold the argument in my iridescent sheen. Pure making do I am. O grand machine, built to blunder and bluster, feel the inside coil of muscle and rivering blood. Listen up, heart, you four-chambered ear. Hear the little quartet of harmony and beat, the homogenitor of sinking pulses. Raises the ante. The individual humanoid has such thin boundary. Yet in you, little body, the march of molecules, the small, insistent spirit breathes its mandate. The inexorable animation shared with all that lives. Say to the bristly jay in the spruce, bullying its neighbor's squirrel, I jay, I spruce, I squirrel, I keep aflame. For now, says the intumescent I, the swollen and diseased, the desecrated I. It was Francis' eyes that did him in. They wept and crusted and pained him to no end. Thick, scabbed, sick eyes, buckled lids, lashes sucked in and under, scraping his cornea thin, scarring opacity. Vision turned inward. Hello, brother fire, he said to the flame recruited to cauterize the wounds of his eyes. Someone held the fire as Francis sang. Someone had to leave the room. Prayer, his surgeon, his staff, his supper, his succor, till perfectly he saw the six-winged angel on the cross and welcomed the gift of the 5 stigmata, calling, Lord, my refuge and my portion in the land of the living. What astronauts saw, they tried out new language to tell us. So too, the almost died. That beautiful, awful edge once peered, endears the pilgrim to the original land, the living, wild, knowable land. Granted a new liver, a drinker rarely returns to drink. Such are the gifts of extremity. What in me might be revived? Someone, please, lend me an eye. The child in my dream was full of judgment. Certain in her pronouncement, the blue-eyed girl repeated what she'd heard, evil this and evil that. Poor parrot, ripe for light. Could she be me? In the everlasting, unremitting undertow of expansion, we grows thin, an ache of connection. I can tell you how the end happens, says the toad. It's preceded by a nor'easter, bearing a deluge. Wind, rain, terrible noise, and you huddle close. Family, neighbors, you feel the dread barely contained within your clustered, shivering bodies. Then the dam gives way, and your home dissolves in the night. Morning before you realize truly the end has come. the life you'd known impossible. The heron stabs a circle of sun, shedding river, flash of foil, then swallows the wriggling light whole. The heron's long, graceful neck, disfigured now, with a bulging knob, stretches up and out to make room in its pulsating throat for that sharp-edged coin. What's been swallowed resists the final requirement, does not slip into its conclusion, but grips the confining walls and bends their frame. Fins, tail, thrash, writhe, the entire self, beleaguered, engages in the search for its ease of river. The heron answers with a beakful of water, then wades through clacking reeds, pauses to salute the sky, extending its gullet. One final gulp, and elegance returns to its silhouette. Each rose is new again. In each season, the same branch, the same root, the same plot of soil offers another and another. The perfect is a circle. God says this every day.
Nice job. Well, good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. Welcome to those who are on Zoom tonight. I think we've got more than 40 people. I'm Stephen Schneider, all the way here from the U.S.-Mexico border, where I've lived and taught for 25 years. I want to thank James for hosting this reading in this venerable setting. James, we were going to pass out some copies because of the artwork. Sure. And I also want to thank my friend and colleague, Dan Tobin, who I've known for about the length of time I've taught at the University of Texas, for inviting me here tonight. I'm going to read from a collection of poems and artwork called Borderlines Drawing Border Lives. It's a bilingual book to reflect the bilingual nature of the U.S.-Mexico border. The Spanish title is Fronteras Dibujando las Vidas Fronterizas. And I want to acknowledge our translator, Jose Antonio Rodriguez. I'm going to read the poems in English, but maybe I'll throw in a phrase or two of Spanish. I moved to the U.S.-Mexico border in 2001 to be the chair of the English department at the University of Texas Pan American. Since then, we've had a merger, and we are now the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. And when my wife and I arrived, we started to take excursions into border towns along the U.S.-Mexico border. And she would sketch and draw and photograph people that we met there, and then do the portraits that you see in this book back in her studio. There's a large series of her drawings and paintings from the border, and I chose 25 of them for our collection, for this book, which I should say is also an exhibit, and it hangs in the special collections area of our library in Brownsville. So I'm going to begin with the first poem tonight, which is called 6-Year-Old Street Vendor. This is a drawing of a young girl on the streets of a border town called Nuevo Progreso, and she's selling handbags because her family cannot afford to send her to go to school. Okay. In her right ear, she wears a pink stud. Her lips are sealed and will not share the secrets of her family, the two-room house with dirt floors and no running water. Her mother makes doilies and tablecloths sold at the basilica. The handbags draped over each wrist and around her neck are stitched by a cousin who lives in Matamoros. They hang from her like ornaments. She awakens each day early to walk the streets of Nuevo Progreso, where she competes with other child vendors of watches, silver bracelets, CDs of Tejano music. She is intimate with the alleys of this border town, beggars with tin cans, children playing the accordion, stray cats. She will never learn how to read and write. She leaves only traces of her footsteps on the muddy paths beside the Rio Grande. When we moved to the border, it was a very different place than it is today. You could park on the US side and walk across a pedestrian bridge over the Rio Grande into Mexico, and there would not be soldiers in uniforms. And there weren't drug cartels that infiltrated the northern border like they do today. Several years after we arrived there, of course, the border wall was put up. But when we did this book together, there was no border wall. And people lived in harmony pretty much down there until things changed. The next poem I'm going to read is called Mariachi with a Red Violin. Those of you who have the book, the drawing's on page 7 of the book. In this collection, there's 2 drawings by Rivka. Rivka's the artist, and she happens to be my wife. And we're still married. And there's 2 mariachi pieces in this collection that really became the seeds for a second book and exhibit that we've done called The Magic of Mariachi, La Magia del Mariachi. But I'm reading from Borderlines tonight because I think it's especially relevant for what's going on today along the border. But this is one of the mariachi pieces. One of the things about South Texas and throughout the Southwest is mariachi music and mariachi education is very important to the culture. And the public schools in San Antonio and all along the border have mariachi education programs. So we got immersed in a way with mariachi culture. And so this is called Mariachi with a Red Violin. This is a drawing of concentration. The red violin tucked firmly beneath his chin. The bow held lightly in his right hand, the fingers of the left positioned carefully on the strings. This young man prepares to play the song from some warm night on a square in Mexico City, where his grandfather listened to the speeches of politicians. He looks out beyond his red violin as if he sees in the distance a young woman in a violet rebozo waiting for him on her balcony. He begins to move the bow, and she tosses him a white gardenia, the evening air scented by its perfume, and the ballad of love he will play. There's a lot of romance in mariachi music, and this poem attempts to capture some of that romance. Okay. I asked my wife, well, what should I read tonight? And she said, well, why don't you read some poems in form? And I said, well, are you sure? And she said, well, you're going to be in Harvard Square, and there's probably some educated people there who might appreciate a form like the sestina. So I'm going to read a sestina for you, The sestina has 6 end words that get repeated in each stanza throughout the poem, but in a different location in each stanza. You kind of have to map it out. Elizabeth Bishop wrote a very famous sestina. What was the title of that sestina?
Sestina.
Just called sestina. Okay. Or what's the refrain line? It's called "The Art of Losing Isn't Hard to Master."
Villanelle.
Oh, that's the villanelle. Okay. So villanelle is a close cousin to the sestina, right? Because it uses repetition. Okay. Both poems depend on repetition. So I'm going to share with you the sestina that I've written, and it's called "The Color of Money." Okay. The Color of Money. And it's found on page 16. The drawing is on page 17. These are 2 young children, also out on the streets. I think they were also in Nuevo Progreso, the border town that we would frequent, selling candy and bracelets. So this is called "The Color of Money." These 2 children look out in quiet despair. The young girl's hand on her brother's shoulder, her left arm draped with plastic shopping bags. He is carrying a box of candies that he sells here in Nuevo Progreso, with his sister close by his side. The 2 of them are standing side by side in a world uncaring of their despair on the main streets of Nuevo Progreso. His head reaches up to her shoulder. Tourists cross the river to buy candies, silver bracelets, tequila for their bags. The vendors sell colorful knitted bags when you cross the bridge to the other side of the Rio Grande, and sweet candies where the street musicians play in their despair, an accordion draped around a shoulder in this border town, Nuevo Progreso. These children who sell in Nuevo Progreso walk the streets with clear and colorful bags, carrying them on the arm and shoulder for the tourists who cross from the other side. Their eyes express the meaning of despair in the small world where they sell these candies. In the small world where they sell these candies, they walk the streets of Nuevo Progreso to help feed themselves and ward off despair. The tourists who buy the different bags and travel to hear from the other side wear slick cameras draped around their shoulder. Her hand touches lovingly his shoulder. This young boy who holds a box of candies is glad his sister is close by his side. These 2 youngsters who know Nuevo Progreso and sell to the tourists cheap shopping bags look out at the world beyond their despair. Prepare to buy their candies and the bags they sell on the other side to shoulder despair and sorrow in Nuevo Progreso. One of the challenges of the sestina is in that final envoy of 3 lines, you've got to place the 6 end words, which by now you probably have heard too much of. Despair, shoulder, bags, candies, Progreso, and side. Okay? So that was for my wife, who's on Zoom tonight. Okay, I'm going to read 2 more poems. One of you might have detected that I don't have a Texas accent. And you might have also detected that I'm not Latino, right? But one of the gratifying things about our collaborations is that the Mexican American community, both in Texas and nationally, has embraced our work. And so this book has blurbs from Sandra Cisneros, who's probably the best-selling Mexican-American author of her famous book is House on Mango Street. And the Iowa Citizen Press Citizen in an editorial wrote, this is a model for the type of cross-cultural understanding and communication that needs to take place to ensure a healthy and comprehensive national debate on immigration issues. Library Journal gave the book a star reviewed and recommended it for schools and libraries. So the book's done very well. This is a second edition. Came out initially as a hardback, and what we have here tonight is the paperback, which is very affordable, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to read Wise Woman with Rings, and then a participatory poem that I'm going to ask you to help me with, okay? So Wise Woman with Rings, this is called La Sabia Mujer con Anillos. She's selling jewelry, rings at a table, and in the background you see a pot, a flower pot. So there's a bracelet. There's a circularity to the drawing that I was moved by and inspired the poem. So it's called Wise Woman with Rings. What do you know? You know the rings, the silver circles of light, the roundness of the rim of the flower pot, the roundness of pupils of the eyes, the depths of their wells. You know the roundness of pebbles on sand. You know the children asleep on the floor. You know hunger and pain. You know the sun and the moon. You know the desert and the sea. You know when to fold your arms like the wings of an angel. You sell these rings as if they held all the mysteries of the universe, all the stars in the vast heavens, all the butterfly flowers on earth, the silver circles of light spread before you on the table of life. We wanted to present a cross-section of life along the border, people giving a face, a human face, to people who live and work there and aspire to have a better life. The introduction is written by Norma Cantu. She's a well-known Latina writer and scholar herself. In her introduction, she talks about the last two poems as being a little more politically hard-hitting than the others in the book. And I'm going to read one of these with you tonight. But I'm going to teach you, how many of you know Spanish or can speak a little Spanish? Oh, well, we're in good shape. So the phrase is, es una mentira. So can I hear everybody say it? Es una mentira. Right. And do you know what that means? Yes. What does it mean?
It's a lie.
It's a lie. Okay, good. So we were in this border town, and there was a sign in English on the shop window that said, don't give money to the children. Okay, in English. Well, why did it say that, do you think? Because they want you to spend money in the stores and not give your money away to children or beggars on the street, okay? So there was a woman there. You see her. She's a very kind of strong-looking woman. And we said to her, ¿Por qué? Why does it say that? ¿Por qué se dice, don't give money to the children? No les des dinero a los niños. She said, it's a lie, okay? So that's how the poem begins. And every other line is es una mentira. So when we get to that refrain line, I'm going to ask you to say it with me, okay? And this speaks to some issues along the U.S.-Mexico border. So I'll do the first one, and then you'll join me. The shopkeeper's sign says, don't give money to the children. Es una mentira. Okay, good. You're already starting. Here we go. Our schools have enough teachers.
Es una mentira.
Our teachers have enough classrooms.
Es una mentira.
Our classrooms have enough desks.
Es una mentira.
Our desks have enough chairs.
Es una mentira.
All right, keep it going. The chairs are waiting for the children.
Es una mentira.
The children should not be begging in the streets. Es una mentira. The streets are full of whores.
Es una mentira.
The whores wear dresses with pink flowers. Es una mentira. The flowers that I sell feed my family. Es una mentira. My family is not proud. Es una mentira. The proud river separates our two people. Es una mentira. The people would like a fence. Es una mentira. The fence will keep us out. Es una mentira. Outside, the sky is always blue. Es una mentira. Inside, the blue books are full of writing. Es una mentira. The writing is on the wall. Es una mentira. The wall is for all the children. Es una mentira. The children can afford to go to school. Es una mentira. The school is always open. Es una mentira. The open book is always closed. Es una mentira. The closed book is always open. Es una mentira. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. This is the hardest part.
Okay, so who's now?
You're right.
Okay,
That's about the right length of time.
thank you. It's wonderful to see everybody here. I assume you can hear me in this room. I'm usually very nervous before reading, but the two poets, Mary and Steve, have just put me in a really great space where I didn't even think about that, and so that's wonderful. If Dan Tobin had never written a line of poetry, there'd be a lot more ink in the world. No. If he had never published any poetry, he would still be known nationally and internationally for what he does with poetry, including events like this, encouraging poets, and he's encouraged me for 40 years, reviewing poets, writing about poets, and teaching. And so he is a really terrific force in this poetry world, and I'm very glad to have known him for so long. If I keep quiet, I can be done with this in 15 minutes, and I'll try not to overtalk, which I have a tendency to do. We are teachers. I thought I'd start with something from my previous book, something a little lighter. There's certain things that happen in your life that you can't put on your CV, but you're as proud of them as anything that might be on the CV. This poem's called Ambition. I'm long past midlife, if only counting years. But as for emotion, given my generation's chronic childhood, I'm only now entering my crisis, which I meet by cursing my body's failings, constant ejaculations about my sore knees, my afternoon need for a nap. So my birthday arrives, at once expected and unwelcome as another bill past due, to be tossed on the pile with the others, when in comes an email from a girl I dated 40 years ago. No girl now, she too middle-aged, a parent. And before I can finish the sentence that begins, just to wish you I'm transported. It's the corner of 86th and Lexington, 6 o'clock on a midweek evening, and I'm rising from the subway stairs. We've planned to meet here, but even so, the sight of each other thrills so much we run and clasp in a kiss and hold that kiss so long that when we emerge for breath, we're startled by applause. Clapping and cheers from the crowd on the sidewalk, the rush hour audience roused to a standing ovation. It was Broadway, I tell you. It was goddamn Hollywood, only better. With no help at all from director or script, makeup, stylist, or lighting crew, no personal chef, gaffer, or grip, we had become the heroes, the lovers, to whom it was given to bestow this gift from the realm of romance, and be given praise in return for a moment that surely must count for something against all the moments I've since let go. This this most recent book is something I haven't done before, which is a book that's really dedicated to one subject, the subject being the painter James McNeill Whistler. Spent 13 years writing these poems. And hopefully they should pretty much stand on their own, because you don't want to get me talking about Whistler. Why such a project? This poem sort of asks the question, but doesn't really answer it. Acknowledgements. Because I admired him, years ago I shook the hand of Allen Ginsberg, who, for similar reasons, years before, shook the hand of Ezra Pound, who many decades earlier had come to shake the hand of William Butler Yeats. And he, in the previous century, introduced himself by shaking the hand of Oscar Wilde, who, aspiring, had shaken the hand of James McNeill Whistler, who, removing the monocle from his eye, peered at the earnest young man, initiating this century-spanning chain of, what is the word? What is it Marcel Proust was after when he purloined one of Whistler's gloves? Well, one reason I'm drawn to him is the art, and this is probably one of the most purely ekphrastic, as in descriptive, poems. It's it describes this painting that's on the cover, one of his nocturnes, night scene of the Thames. This is called Thames Music. Groan of hawser as barge heaves, tide lipping the shingle shore, ruffling below the bridge pier. Wavelets the dripping oar bleeds into as colors bleed. It is night, the river traffic moored, and you sketch what you can of building, bridge, barge, silhouettes in charcoal, strokes, suggestions, as if precomposing the lines of the staff on which, come daylight, you'll trim the notes of harmonized color. Reaching for music, you called them nocturnes, after Chopin, who named a mood on the keyboard for a time of night that holds in abeyance the thrum of day. And you, can you paint music? That crafting of sound and silence, self-reflective order all art aspires to, as gin-slurred sesquipedalian Swinburne was prone to quote. Today, in a hushed gallery of the Tate, I'm sitting 10 paces away from nocturne, blue and silver, Cremorne lights. 22 notes of gold train a slow melody of gas lamps on the shoreline, reflected in counterpoint on the water. But as I linger, sky and river, their one infusion of color, lift out of the frame and resonate. No, not music, but what music shadows, some great being quiet. So far, I'm good at not talking. As you can see, Whistler lived in the height of the Victorian era in London, mostly London, Paris, and you can see how he thought in the 20th century, even though he was in the 19th century. And you can see the kind of abstraction, almost kind of like, you can see Mark Rothko looking at this and saying, yeah. And he insisted on, his most famous painting was the portrait of his mother, which was the first American to be purchased by the Louvre. It's known as Whistler's Mother. His name for it actually was Arrangement in Gray and Black. He hated the narrative, sentimental paintings of his time, and that was one thing that I'm kind of getting at in this next poem, but also trying to kind of undercut a little bit. No, it's not that poem. Let me find the one I was intending to read. Where'd it go? Oh, yeah. The artist is born in Lowell, and he was born in Lowell, Massachusetts. When the critic, conditioned by his time as any Galapagos finch by its island, laid eyes on Whistler's nocturne in gray and gold, Chelsea snow, he fell in love with the small, dark figure of a man lonesome against the glow of lamplit windows in the snow that signifies life's tribulation. Whistler seethed. Who am I, Dickens? A sin against art to admit any motive but the painting's own, which requires right there that man-shaped wisp of black. And Whistler's right. Just hold up a thumb to cover that figure, that single note, and see the entire composition fall flat. But even so, how can I resist the temptation to snoop for motives? Maybe that walking shadow of a man is on a quest to his local pub for the grail of a pint. And then there's the question of original sin, to picture Whistler himself, the 4-year-old boy hidden beneath his mother's dressing table, sketching her over and over as if his grip on the pencil could draw him closer. 2 younger brothers will die by the time he turns 9. At 15, when his father dies, he'll decide to become a painter. Years later, the mother describes her grown son painting, rubbing out, painting over, until his genius is satisfied. And yes, I can see the genius played by that one black note. But I can also feel the pressure of a hand just there to satisfy a need for focus in a scene dissolving into formless mist and snow. I see the hand of a young boy become the hand of an old man who, asked in jest, "Whatever possessed you to be born in Lowell?" replied, as if it had been scripted, "I wanted to be near my mother." One of the things Whistler invented was this celebrity artist. He was that in his time. He was a mentor to Oscar Wilde, among others. The famous quote was, they were at a dinner party and Whistler said something funny and Oscar Wilde said, "Oh, James, I wish I'd said that." And Whistler paused a beat and said, "You will, Oscar, you will." I was trying to figure out which poems to do, and I decided that I'd choose poems that are actually right here in Harvard, in Boston. That previous painting is over in the Fogg Museum. Here's another poem about one of Whistler's contributions, one of his thinking ahead aspects. It's called Sonnet, or I should say like sonnet, damn it, because when I write something formal, I sort of feel like it's a task that needs to be stated. Anyway, sonnet. Next time you're visiting a gallery, linger a moment on the space between the paintings. The old salons would hang them floor to ceiling, side to side, covering the walls like shingles. Hence those frames, gilded, bulky props, meant not only to enclose, but for keeping out the other crowded works and their competing shouts for attention like ads, pop-ups, or apps. It was Whistler's thought to give the painting space. If you've never paid attention to the walls, that's the point, to give the eye a pause. Some room to let the painting, as you see it, resonate. like silence after a musical phrase, or, as he wrote, the large margins framing the sonnet. There's a whole other I'm reading parts of this book that focus on Whistler, but there's a whole other aspect in the 13 years that I wrote it, in which we had a child. We tried to have another child through in vitro. My whole life is sort of in this, I don't know what, with Whistler. And I'm really kind of leaving that part out. There are things I don't like about Whistler. He was a very popular and very loyal friend, but he was also prickly, to say the least. He was a horrible racist, too. He had several children that he just gave up for adoption because he couldn't be bothered. The title, The Gentle Art, comes from a book he published called The Gentle Art of Making Enemies. And so just to hint at this controversial aspect of him, here's a very short poem called The City. The City. I think of Cavafy's indelible poem and the phrase as rendered by Durrell, no ship exists to take you from yourself. Thus Whistler, after his year-long sail to Valparaiso, stepped off the train at Paddington Station, is met by a man who promptly beats the shit out of him. True story. With all of this, having longtime lovers and then kind of letting them go, and having children and giving them up and being extremely, as I say, euphemistically prickly. This is my last poem. Towards the end of his life, he fell in love with a widow and married her. And she died not a few years later of cancer. And so he became, in many ways, in some ways, the sentimental person. He started liking cats. He had pet cats, and so that should say something. But anyway, the paintings, I'd mentioned two paintings here. They're over in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. Two portraits. The Lamp. It's November 1895. To his wife who will die before summer, James Whistler writes a word or two of hope. He's in a coastal village in Dorset where he's gone to paint. She urged him to, knowing that immersion in his work is all that can ease his mind from the effort of denying what will surely happen. In the village of Lyme Regis, he's painted a blacksmith and a young girl. In his letter to his wife, among gossip and unreal plans for travel to America together, he writes about the lamp. The lamp is part of their private language, like the pet names and the jokes. Like Aladdin's, the lamp holds rewards, but only suffering, it seems, can rub them into being. The lamp has to do with time, by which work will be, this is my word, accomplished. She knows this. But there is one moment when he writes to her of something new and urgent, about the real light of untiring love and purity which finally become knowledge. I think he was pointing to this when he wrote, especially look at the head of little Rosie, his portrait of Rosie Randall, the mayor's daughter. Perhaps only a child could meet his gaze so full on, so openly. Even the master blacksmith folds his arms across his chest, looks at the painter sideways, holding his strength to himself. Because Rosie, 8 years old, has become a person, and she knows this, but cannot fully fathom her life yet unlived, for she is at once Rose and little. But it's also the way he meets her gaze. I can't tell if the joy he feels is more from having seen so well, or the skill of his hand in painting her. Later that winter, he is drawing his wife at rest, cervical cancer having leached her strength away. In this process, he draws with a wax pencil on transfer paper, which he will later press onto polished stone. The stone will keep the image long enough to reproduce. In the siesta, as though it were only that. A few lines to capture the bed, the comforter. Her forearm, drawn pencil thin, droops from her sleeve. Her fingers, lamp shadows, a counterweight to the focal point. The dark tones and highlights of her hair, the oval of her face, white as paper, and within, her eyes looking back at him, with brows raised to open them slightly more, in a soft question, answered by the touch of pencil tip to paper. At last, he brings his art to bear on love. Not the slightest flaw, his printer said, when the image was transferred to stone. Thank you all very much.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you to Mary, Stephen, and William for the beautiful reading this evening. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you to Dan for providing the wonderful introductions. Let's give Dan a round of applause. Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you. Thanks to everybody on Zoom. And we have some books for sale. If everyone would please put your chairs up against one of the walls, I'd be very grateful. Thank you very much.
Very nice.